The Enzo Maresca era officially begins tonight in the early hours of this morning as we are set to play against Wrexham in tonight's pre-season friendly. Now for UK viewers, the game will start around 3:30 AM in the Levi Stadium in LA. Is Miles going to be up to cover the game? I mean, you guys already know the answer to that. At this point, it's a tradition to cover every single pre-season game. I do enjoy that, I'm not going to lie to you, and last year, it was definitely worth the wait as we thrashed Wrexham 5-0. Now in that 5-0 win, we didn't necessarily see anything long-term that was conducive towards the rest of pre-season or even the start of last season. But it at least gave us an early indication, showed us early ideas and promise around a new playstyle, a new mentality, and a new ethos. And I think tonight we are set to see all the work Maresca's been doing with this squad over the last few weeks, and to be honest, I'm really excited to see what's been going on. Pre-seasons are normally the defining parts for all managers to get across their ideas to their squad, because it's like the only time during a whole season you can have the squad for consecutive weeks to simply work on tactics, training, and ideas. But at the moment, we've learned a lot of positive things surrounding Maresca and his management of the squad. We've learned that the players are very receptive to Maresca, his ideas, they're very clear, and Maresca is a hands-on manager that a lot of times is getting directly involved in these training sessions. Now that's not a rare, unique thing for managers, most of them do that, but if you guys remember Maresca, he used to be a pretty decent midfield player back during the early 2000s. But on top of that, he's very vocal, he's encouraging his team, he's pushing these guys forward. And to be honest, I think after the disappointment some players felt when our last manager left, I think Maresca has literally been a breath of fresh air. I think he's taken over, he's asserting himself really well, and already he is winning the squad over, as the most important thing that was reported is that the mood in the dressing room has lifted, and that is testament to Maresca and his management. So I hope you guys enjoy the preview. Hit that like button if you guys are pumped for this preseason, if you're pumped by Enzo Maresca. But before I move on very quickly, right now is the best opportunity to secure your new home kit for this season and take advantage of the club's new fresh launch of their new training gear items for the 24-25 season. You'll find all the links you need in the description, top comment, and if you use them, don't forget to use Nini10 at checkout to get 10% off your final order. So my friends, that's that out of the way, let's get straight into things. Let's start with some team news. Don't expect to see Nico Jackson playing today as he is currently nursing a small injury. Also, don't expect to see Kiernan Dewsbury Hall because he was spotted doing some runs away from the training groups over the past few days. He's clearly carrying a small knock, but hopefully we see him pretty soon. And for the final player, do not expect to see Kellyman playing as he is currently also nursing an injury. We do say hello to Caicedo and Ugochukwu who have joined up with the squad in the States, but we still need to wait for players like Connor, Palmer and Enzo Fernandez to return back to the squad as they are currently still on their holidays. Let's move on to discussing everything we are currently learning about training sessions. Now, some journalists were fortunate enough to have the access to watch an open training session. They were allowed to record, and we got some indications and some secrets that were slowly being revealed, with the main one being we noticed Malo Gusto and Lavia playing in the pivot together. This gives us a strong indication that both players could be playing in the team together later this morning against Wrexham. So for myself, I'm excited to see that. Make sure you guys watch my 5 key targets from Maresca, which I released last night, because I felt with the quality we have down that right side, surely that talent in Gusto and Reece James would be too much for Maresca to not even consider using these guys as the inverted fullback options, because they've had a ton of experience playing as midfield players. We noticed that a lot of training was done with the ball in anticipation for the game later tonight, and this training was a combination of ball work and fitness work together. I think this is allowing the players to understand the passing patterns of rhythms that Maresca is expecting from them, and to progress into that, we also noticed certain chance creation sessions that were revealed. As you can see on screen, look at the width being held by the opposing wingers on each side. They're not really involved in the play. They're literally stationed there, isolated, and they only move when a ball is played in behind for them to run onto. And once the ball is played in those areas, they are tasked with putting in accurate cutback crosses and low-driven crosses into the box for players to finish off. And normally that is like a customary part of Maresca's teams because that is the Man City way of playing. Another thing that was revealed was that we saw Christo and Nkunku taking up 8 positions in the training sessions as well too. And Maresca said in his press conference that he's expecting to utilize Nkunku in a variety of different positions because he really loves the versatility that the player brings. I'm sure we'll see Nkunku play up front at times, on the wings and as an 8, but to be honest with you, I've always been thinking that 8 position, the offensive 8 role, is the best position for Nkunku in this current system. I hope he gets that, and I think this guy could be one of the big stars in the Premier League for next season. And to end things, we're just seeing a lot of training drills, passing drills, with Maresca being very vocal and communicating his needs and expectations from the players. So, you know, it's nice to see a little bit of what's happening behind the scenes. You guys share your thoughts and opinions. How do you feel about things? And now, let's end things with the final part of today's video. I want to discuss this predicted lineup for the game tonight. Now, I need to start off by saying this first. Obviously, we're finally set to learn Maresca's ideas later this evening, and it seems it's quite clear now. We are set to see the use of inverted fullbacks in his lineup tonight. Now, with our first game of the season against Man City, it means everything we do in pre-season, in my opinion, we must take advantage of every single game to get ready to be in the best optimum condition tactically, physically and mentally to take on and try to beat Man City. If we have an incredible start to next season by beating Man City, that boost, that mental lift from the squad, that could hopefully, fingers crossed, give us a run of consecutive games where we're winning them. That's my ideal situation. I think we should see players important to Maresca's ideas in the lineup tonight. However, I'm not expecting to see the strongest lineup start the first half and the weakest lineup start the second half. I think for the sake of this game purely against Wrexham, you're going to see this used for conditioning and fitness. You're going to see a degree of randomness in the lineup, but this is still a great opportunity to see those early ideas for Maresca's game and of course for fitness to be built across the squad. So that's that intro out of the way. This is my predicted lineup to start the game. Up front, I've gone for Armando Broja. Alongside him, on the wings, I've gone for Raheem Sterling and Noni Madueke. In midfield, I have gone for Nkunku, Andre Santos, Lavia, and in defence, Ben Chilwell, Levi Cole, Wesley Fofana, Malo Gusto, and Sanchez in goal. Alright, so here's my thinking for the first lineup. I think we're going to see a striker play up front because it has been suggested that we could be seeing Nkunku taking up an advanced 8 role, and if that's the case, we need a striker that can occupy Wrexham's defence. That makes sense. I've gone for Madueke on the right hand side and Sterling on the left because based on the clips coming out from the training sessions, it did seem like that was Madueke on the right hand side, and it did seem like that was Sterling on the left. Now, Sterling has a lot of experience playing positionally. He's going to really want to take advantage of every single preseason game because, listen, last season wasn't his best. He wasn't awful, but considering he is our top earning player, one of the players we look up to, he needs to be that talisman and difference maker, and hopefully he takes some confidence from the fact that he is familiar with these ideas that Enzo Maresca is teaching the team. And on the opposite side, I think Madueke will be that direct threat that Maresca likes to have in his lineups. And listen, this kid ended last season strong. We can't forget that. And when people talk about Mudryk showing promise, no, Madueke's shown us what promise actually looks like. And I hope he builds off from how we ended last season. As I said, in midfield, I have Nkunku on the left-hand side. Alongside him, Andre Santos and Lavia. Now, Santos is set to leave us to go to Strasbourg soon, but I think because maybe other players are, still recovering from injuries and small knocks, he might have to start this game because he needs some fitness regardless, right? And to hold the midfield, I've gone for Lavia in the base, and that's because Lavia played a lot of games there under Maresca in Man City's under-18s and PL2 teams. So it makes sense considering that he's so good at dictating the play, starting the first moves, his line-breaking passes are clean, and he's very press-resistant. If you're going to invert Malo Gusto to play alongside him, that's the ideal midfield player that you want to see. And I guess this takes us straight into defense now, with Gusto set to potentially move in the inverted role. Don't think to yourself though that this will kind of curtail all his offensive threat. If anything, He could have the license to make those underlapping runs and to time his overlaps when the team needs him to. Maresca will still encourage his players to create those overloads and to still find those openings to beat and get through the opposition structure. That will still happen, and I think that with Gusto's ability on the ball, he's one of the cleanest players on the ball. Last season I thought this guy was clear. I'm excited to see what he does playing in a different role, but I guess kind of familiar role for Gusto. With him being the inverted fullback, I'm going for Cornwall and Wesley Fofana. In my opinion, they will be our #1 defensive partnership. Of course, a left footer and a right footer. Cole is one of the best young defenders in the country. Fofana is one of the most promising ones in Europe as well. It's a shame that we haven't seen both of our star defenders get that game time together, but I'm going for them because I want them to start to pattern that defensive understanding and relationship together because they haven't played together yet. I want them to start this game, and hopefully, as pre-season goes on, they will continue to play more and more and more because they could be that perfect partnership that really complements each other and uplifts each other at the same time. So, with Gusto inverting, this will mean that Ben can play his normal overlapping box-to-box game. He does have that goal threat. He has had a lot of injuries, and hopefully, if he's set to remain here for next season, he is able to find some consistency with his fitness. I think that's been one of the biggest claims for Ben, and because he's constantly getting these injuries, I personally feel like the reason why his reputation is so low within a lot of the fan base is because when you see him, you're literally seeing a Ben these days that is still recovering from an injury. And by the time he's fully recovered, he then breaks down again. But it does seem like Ben and Sterling will have the license, of course, to time the overlaps and to make those runs and behinds against Wrexham later tonight. So I'm excited to see what happens. And obviously in goal, I've gone for Robert Sanchez, as I think most likely he'll be our #1 this season. So it is up to Sanchez now to take advantage to secure his #1 spot. I don't think this game against Wrexham matters too much, but I'm really interested to see how he moves the ball. If there's any small improvements in his precision, I'm curious to see the areas in which he will distribute the ball as well, but most importantly, I'm curious to see how he will step up to essentially create a makeshift back four, and by having that, that can allow us to have another man forward to help play out against opposition pressure. So that is my predicted lineup tonight, my friends. Share your thoughts and opinions. Now, to quickly end things with my second half lineup, I'll show you my lineup, but I won't go into detail as I've explained like the principles with the first lineup. But the second one, I've gone for a 4-2-3-1 because I think that will be an alternate system that Maresca will also use as well. So in this team, I think Gu will start up front. Down the wings will be Mudryk and Angelo. I think Tyreek George will start as the attacking mids, and in midfield I'll see Leslie Gojukwu, Carney Chukwumeka, and the defense of Vega playing left back. Benoit, Tosin, Reece James and Bettinelli in goal. I think Reece and Vega will be interested to see if they alternate between inverting, because I think if the ball's on one side, let's say the right hand side, it makes sense to see Reece James invert, and if the ball's on the left hand side, it makes sense to see Vega invert. And I think that's the big tactical thing I want to see this preseason. Will we see the fullbacks alternate their responsibilities when it comes to inverting? And what type of solutions can that solve for us during preseason and hopefully during the start of next season? So my friends, that is everything preview that you need to know before our game later this morning against Wrexham. Make sure you guys stay tuned to watch the game with me. Stay tuned for my big review video afterwards, of course, as I'm going to break down exactly what I learned in that game. And I hope you guys have a good day, and I'll see you all very soon. So I'm Nini FC, this is BlueLionsTV. Catch you guys in a bit.